Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. Well, today is week 2 of, for the most part, the mystery quilt from Fort Worth Fabric Studio. And if you haven't guessed it from looking at the pieces that we cut last week, this week we are making fir trees. We're going to make 8 of these, so I went ahead and did one ahead of time just to see what that was going to look like. What I can say from making this one is that if you chain piece these, they're going to go a lot faster. Like I said, there's 8 of them. It was really easy to put together, but there's a lot of sewing because there's a lot of pieces. So that's what I would recommend, but I am going to show you how to make one, and then I'll leave you to do the other 7 on your own. It's really cute. They came out really well. I'm really excited to get sewing on this project. So let's get started. Okay, as you can see, I've got some of my tree pieces laid out here, but I'm going to skip around in the instructions a little bit. Bear with me, but I find it a little bit easier if I can check off things a piece at a time. It makes me feel like I've gotten a little bit more done. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to skip down to step 5, and I'm going to make the trunk piece because it's super simple. It's just this square and these 2 rectangles, and the sizes are listed in the pattern. All we need to do is sew a rectangle on either side of the square, and that's our trunk piece. So I'm going to get this done first and get this piece out of the way. So let's get that one done. This is the easiest part to the whole thing. And I'm just going to finger press this for now, and I'm going to go back and press everything in a bit. I'm pressing towards the brown fabric. Okay, so that's our trunk. So that's one part of this block that's already done. It just needs a press. So I'm going to set that there for now until we're ready to press. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is the instructions showing you do each row one at a time. So I'm going to skip around a little bit. We're going to build all of these tree pieces kind of like a flying geese, where we're adding a square to both sides of each of these rectangles. So rather than adding these rectangles one at a time and then adding the end pieces that are go on each end of these blocks to make this full rows, I'm going to go ahead and do the flying geese for all of the blocks, and then come back and add the end pieces to each of these to make the full rows. I hope that makes sense. To me, that makes sense to put all the flying geese on first, press everything, and then come back and add all the extra end pieces. I feel like, especially if you're making all 8 today, it's going to go a lot faster if you do that. So the first thing I need to do is, if you want, is get out your marking pen and turn these guys over and mark corner to corner. And we're just going to sew all these on the corners like flying geese. Okay? I am going to trust my handy dandy diagonal seam tape over here and not mark these, but you may want to mark them. And then we're just going to sew these on corner to corner, just like we're making flying geese. Oh, lost my thread. Hold on. Re-threading the machine. Every once in a while when my thread cutter cuts, it makes my thread pop out of my needle. Have you guys ever had that happen? If you have a thread cutter on your machine? Most of the time it works properly though, so it doesn't bother me. I need to trim this thread because the end of my thread is too janky to go back through the needle. Alright. It happens. And my machine does have a needle threader, but it's never really worked properly, so I just thread it by manually thread it. So, all right, here we go. Let's get the extra thread off there. Okay. Now, if you're making all 8 at once, you can do all 8, 8, 8, do them all, and just keep running them all, and don't even cut the thread. Just sew them all at once. Okay, so now these 3 don't need to be trimmed before we put the square on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. The top one will have to be trimmed and pressed before we can do that. But again, this will save us a little bit of time. And this fabric is a tone-on-tone, so be really careful when you're sewing it. Make sure you get the right side down or up. I love tone-on-tone fabrics, but they can be a little bit tricky. If you have a blue light, you can really see them, which is nice. I don't have one down here, but I know they make like mini blue light flashlights. Or you can sort of feel it. The side that has the design on it you can feel it a little bit more than the other side. The other side's usually nice and smooth. The wrong side. The right side of the fabric, you can usually feel a little bit of, I don't want to say bumpiness, but you can feel a little texture. That's a good word for it. Okay, so those 3 are done. So we'll trim and press all of these. We'll press this guy, and then after this one's trim and press, we can add this last square. So I'm just going to grab my rotary cutter and a little ruler here so we can get all these trimmed. Okay, 2 more pieces. We'll get these trimmed, and then we will press all these. Now, rather than sitting here boring you watching me trim all these and press them, after you get them all trimmed, we're going to go ahead with our iron and press all these out. So you should have something that looks like this on all of these. So it should look like a flying geese unit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish trimming all these, pressing everything, and come back and we'll add this last piece to that top one, and then we'll start adding our outside pieces. Okay, so here's all the middles of the tree pieces done. As you can see, I've got my squares on both sides, so they look like flying geese, as I was saying earlier. Now this top one is the only one where the pieces are going to overlap. All the rest should be open like this, okay? So those are ready to go. So now the only thing we have left to do is add the side pieces to all of these, and then we can sew all the rows together. Okay, so you should have 4 background pieces, sets of background pieces left, enough for 8 blocks, so 16. All right, the 2 longest ones are going to go on either side of the top piece. These are the same size squares that we used for our flying geese. So that's going to go on the second level. The next size down is going to go here, and these little small guys are going to go on the bottom here. So all we have to do now is sew all these together, press them all, and then we can add our tree trunk, and that's our block. It's really, really simple. So hopefully that all made sense. Put my ruler away, don't need that. Now I'm just going to sew all these on both sides, and then we'll go back and press everything. Excuse me. Definitely make sure that you are pressing everything every step of the way as you go. I get asked all the time when I teach or go to guilds or things like that, how to get better piecing. And when people ask me those questions, I ask for a sample of their work. And most of the time, their quilting or their piecing is done really well. They've got a proper 1/4 inch seam allowance. Most of the time it's their pressing. They haven't pressed their block. They maybe they'll finger press it and then they'll just put the whole block together. But because of the way the fabric sort of, like even right now, this one here that I did bunches up a little bit, if you add that to the next piece without pressing it, you're not getting that full width of the fabric. And if you do that across a whole block, you can lose, you know, 1/4, 1/2 inch of your block. And it makes your blocks come out to the wrong size, even though you technically sewed everything correct. So just my tip of the day, make sure that you're pressing between each step when you make a block. It is very important for precise piecing. I know it adds time to making your blocks, but quilting's not really supposed to be a race. And I guarantee that you'll be much happier with the results. And that one. Okay. So what I like to do, and I didn't do it on these because I don't have a lot of space here, but I typically finger press everything first and then take it over to the iron to press. Because if you make the fabric go the way you want with the finger pressing before you press it with the iron, it tends to lay better. All right, one more row. Okay, again on these two, it would be faster if you're making all 8 at the same time to chain piece everything. So what I would do is like do all the pieces on this side, then all the pieces, same thing, and then turn all the blocks or the rows around and do all of them on this side at the same time. All right, so now that our pieces are sewn onto the side, I'm going to go ahead and give everything a press. So I finger press. This is how I iron. And I use this, I call it magic juice, but it's a starch excuse me, a starch alternative concentrate from Acorn Easy Press. That just really helps your seams. You just put it on the seams. It makes your blocks really flat. Okay. All right, those are all nice and flat now. So now I'm gonna line them back up. And if I've sewn them correctly, they should all be the same width. And then I'm gonna grab my tree trunk over here. Oops, this good. All right, and that is going to be our tree. So I'm just gonna sew them together row by row. Excuse me. Still getting over my cold a little bit, but much better today, so that's good. Not really too much. There's really no seams to match up in this, which is nice. So I'm just making sure that my start and my end are matched up, my rows, and then you just go for it. And I'm going to just finger press this for now, and at the very end press everything really well with the iron. Oh, it's cute. I love seeing these trees come together. One more, and all we have to do is press this block. Got a pink thread on there. I'm not sure where that came from. I'm not a pink girl. I don't sew much with pink. Okay, there's our tree block. So all I need to do is press this. I'm going to give this a really nice good press, and I'll come back and I'll show you it all finished. Well, thank you so much for sewing along with me today. I hope you enjoyed that. Here is our cute Christmas tree block. Yay, I love it. Now don't forget, you're going to have to make 8 of these. So that is the one that we did together, and I've made the other 8 here as well. Now this block has been pressed really well, and I didn't press these ones yet. I just finger pressed them, and you could probably kind of see they're not super flat like this one is. This one's really nice and flat. So pressing, pressing, pressing. Make sure you press all of your blocks. So I pressed all the pieces as I went on these ones, but I did not do a final press on them. So that's what I'm going to do now. So enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week for block number 2 and week 3. Until then, keep sewing. Bye.